In this short video series, I want to talk about the Java object-oriented programming language. I want to compare it to some other languages you might have heard about, like C++, C#, .NET, Python, Ruby. We want to see how Java fares against these other languages and why it might be the best fit for you. In the software development environment of today, there are really two different predominant camps of programming languages. The first type of programming language that exists from the 50s up until now is procedural programming language. This is what we would equate with mainframe programs. These are programs that exist and execute predominantly on mainframe computers. So maybe you've heard about COBOL or Fortran or C or Pascal. These are all mainframe types of languages. In addition to that, the more recent types of developments are all object-oriented programming languages. These are the kinds of programming languages that are going to execute on some type of a server. So when we think about these types of languages, we're talking about Java or Python or C++ or C#. That's the latest and greatest of the programming languages in vogue today. Now that we know that there are two different kinds of programming languages, let's talk a little bit about why object-oriented might be the best option for you. So the apex of procedural programming was really from the 50s and through the 80s. That was the era of mainframe computing system. Now they're still in existence today, but the demand for them is not nearly as high. So from the 90s, we saw the upsurge of object-oriented languages like Java or C++ or C#. In addition to that, when we think about the different applications that are being built today, the leading edge applications, the vast majority of those are being built with the skill sets that you learn in object-oriented languages. The demand for these particular skills on the O side are really on the surge stage here. But procedural skill sets, although they're still out there, have really declined since about the 90s. And finally, when we look at the new applications that are being built, we think about mobile applications, we think about e-commerce web applications. All of these applications are being built using the principles of different types of object-oriented languages. So we know that object-oriented programming languages are really the language of today. So when we think about those languages, we're talking about programs that basically execute on a server. The kinds of languages that we're talking about are Java, .NET, C++, C#, Objective-C. All of these are object-oriented languages, and they're all used on different types of device platforms. For example, we're all pretty comfortable with iPhone mobile applications. Everything that's being developed on an iPhone uses an object-oriented language. That language is called Objective-C. Another concept that you might have heard about is the concept of big data. So big data is really businesses taking a massive amount of information and using it to do decision-making processes. This is also using object-oriented language, and the predominant one here is going to be Java. We can think about Android and the mobile applications and different types of Android phones. This is also going to be predominantly a Java world. In addition to that, we think about mobile applications being developed for tablets, whether you're talking about the iPad or Samsung. All of these device types are also using object-oriented languages in their development. So this is important because this shows us the future. So object-oriented is here today, but it also is being developed for applications in the future. If you do a little bit of research, you're quickly going to discover that there's many different programming languages out there that fit into this object-oriented genre. So you have C#, you have Java, you have C++, Python, Ruby, Objective-C. So when you're looking at all these different types, which one might be the best fit for you? So let's ask ourselves a couple of questions as we look at these different programming languages. For example, which one has the best employment opportunities that are out there? So how many jobs are going to be available? What's the starting salary? If you get right down to it, it's really all about economics. So where can I earn a good salary? Which language has the greatest potential? So is it being utilized quite a bit? Is there a big group of developers out there, or a lot of different applications that are using it? What has the best potential for me? Which one might be best for a novice developer, and which language might be the most popular? So we're going to look at each of these questions and provide some answers so we can make a determination on which language might be best for me. Java has been ranked as the #1 programming language worldwide for at least the last 10 years, maybe a little bit longer than that. So let's look at a couple of factors that we can use to gauge its popularity. So #1 is probably the number of developers. So right now, worldwide, Java has just over 9 million developers that are using it as the predominant language. If you think about the number of companies that are out there specifically within the United States, more than 90% of the Fortune 1000 companies are using the Java language as the core development technology for the vast majority of their basic systems. Another thing we want to think about is new technologies and the trends. So we want to make sure that the language we're going to be learning is going to be used in the future. So there's a couple of new technologies that are out there that you may be aware of. Obviously, most of us are comfortable with the Android operating system, and maybe you have an Android device, smartphone, or a tablet that you might be using. Those are all using the Java technology exclusively. In addition to that, there's a concept of big data, where companies are using technologies to scroll through and to look at the massive amount of information that they're gathering from their customers. Hadoop is a concept that's being used. Java is very heavily embedded inside of the concept of big data. Let's look at the number of devices that are out there. Worldwide, there's over 3 billion devices that are using Java at the core of their infrastructure. So that's a massive amount of, whether you're talking about phones, or you're talking about tablets, or you're talking about desktops, you're talking about servers. There's a huge assortment of different devices that are running with the Java language. Another thing we might be interested in is who's behind the technology. We want to make sure that there are large companies that are supporting it as a standard. That means it's going to have a fairly long life. So two of the biggest technology companies that are out there, IBM and Oracle, are huge proponents of the Java language. They build lots of products and services and software that are centered around the utilization of Java. That means it's going to have a very deeply entrenched market out there for its usage, which means there's going to be lots of development jobs out there. So speaking about jobs, what is and are the prospects for employment within the United States? So just as of February 1st, 2016, if you just go out there, I just took a look out there, and on Indeed.com, just one of the many job sites that are out there, there were almost 89,000 jobs that were listed for Java developers. So that should give you some snapshot as of the popularity of the Java language and why Java is considered to be the #1 language worldwide. Although it might be important to really enjoy what you do and enjoy your job, it's also very important to be able to make a very good living wage. So let's look at some of these starting salaries that might be expected in the object-oriented programming realm. So here we see a listing of the top object-oriented languages that happen to be out there. And based on this particular list here, which we compiled recently from the U.S. Department of Labor, we can see that Java is the #2 ranked language out there from a starting salary perspective. Those are some very respectable starting salaries. So these are for entry-level developers just coming out of school, perhaps a college, a vocational school, or maybe taking a boot camp. But this is kind of what you can expect to see on average throughout the United States for a starting salary as a Java developer. So what is it about Java that makes it the best choice for a novice programmer? What are the specific things about Java that make it good as your first programming language? So let's take a look at some of those ideas. One of them is that Java is the oldest, most persistent, and influential language that we use on the web today. So it's been around the longest, it's been used the most, it's very prolific in its base. Also, Java as a language has very, very deep, in-depth features, and it is obviously object-oriented, which is what most developers and most employers are looking for as far as a skill set goes. The other aspect of Java, and the reason it's ideal for a new programmer, a novice programmer, is it forces you to think analytically and logically. So you have to have that mental mindset and work within the confines of how programmers view the world. Additionally, it's got the fundamental concepts that allow you to pick up other languages. So it teaches you the core aspects of not only the programming concepts and techniques and object orientation, but it also gives you the core knowledge that all other programming languages are going to utilize. So it makes the transition to other languages that much easier. It's also used as the majority application for our server-based applications. So when you think about the World Wide Web and you think about all the different things that we do on the web, on the server where all these conversations are taking place, that is where Java lives. So those applications which handle thousands of transactions a day, they're basically using Java at their core. The other key ingredient to Java is its portability. Java can be developed and written one time and deployed across all these different platforms and operating systems. So it's highly variant, highly flexible, can be used on many different platforms, which makes it very valuable. It's also backed and promoted by IBM and Oracle. So we talked about this earlier, about these two large IT companies, their depth of knowledge and their desire to see the Java platform succeed is one of the reasons it's been so successful. And also there's an availability of completely free tools, tutorials, and examples. A lot of programming languages have this, of course, but Java has its own set. But the key ingredient here is all these particular tools, these learning tutorials, these code examples are all completely free.